So the reason our camera's off is because I will be recording and I usually post and sometimes distribute these. So I try to protect your identity as much as possible there. So to begin, this is Mastering the Job Hunt. My name is Demetrius. I'm a career coach slash career guide, just helping people navigate this turbulent job market. And wanted to kind of go over some basic strategies that can help people to get into interviews faster, to get their resume out there, to get kind of some networking conversations happening as well. I know that there's a lot of different variables that go into the process, and it can be a little bit overwhelming without the proper support or the right guidance. So hopefully, what we discussed today can kind of maybe change your angle of which you're approaching things, and kind of get some traction going with some of the applications and things that you're doing currently. So today I want to discuss kind of addressing some of the common problems that I see, especially in the job search strategy portion of the job search. And one of the things that we talk about is developing proper market research, right? So really talking about what do you know about your industry, your position, and the values that you bring to the market, right? I think a lot of the times individuals I talk to, they don't really have an advanced knowledge outside of their specific position in their company or their previous role. And it makes it a little bit harder to position yourself as an authority or someone that can bring value to an organization when you yourself are not clear what the industry needs or what skill sets are really prominent, right? So next we'll talk about creating a basic job search like strategy, right? Which is what we call the LAMP method. It's really easy to implement. It should take less than about 2 hours, right? But wanted to just give you one example of one of the tools we use to kind of get things organized. And then we'll talk about effective marketing in different ways to target and create engagement and conversation with decision makers and other people in your industry field. So one of the common issues that I see a lot of people dealing with, I have probably like 50 conversations a month, and a lot of the common themes, right, are people that are applying to 10, 20, over 100 places, and they're getting zero responses, right? Also zero like networking opportunities, or that's not really going anywhere for them. And they've been in their job search for plus 5 or 6 months without even one interview, right? So really we diagnose the beginning portion of the job search as probably being one of the areas of like issues, right? Because if we're not getting interviews at all, that means that up front they don't think that we can either do the job well or that we're not a good fit for the culture or whatever environment, right? So a lot of that is some of the tools and the way that we're positioning ourselves is hindering us in the very beginning portion of our job search. So those are some of the things we'll discuss here today, right? So a little bit about myself, why I talk about job searching at all, right? So I spent about 4 years in recruitment doing life science recruitment. And the reason why I bring that up mainly is because it really allowed me to work with hiring managers, to work with hundreds and hundreds of candidates, doing interview prep, cover letters, rewriting resumes, aligning skill sets with the right jobs, right? And then hearing what hiring managers didn't like, why they didn't go through with like the third or second round interview, and why they were constantly denying certain candidates, right? So that really inspired me to really focus on helping individuals to learn how to master job skills, right? Because outside of your actual skills as in whatever profession, job searching is its own skill set, right? You have looking for the right opportunities, positioning yourself, negotiating your salary, and all those things, right? And looking in the right places is its own set of skills, right? So I was really inspired to kind of focus and help people with that. I spent some time as an HR generalist, kind of onboarding and hiring a number of employees. In my spare time, I facilitate interpersonal communication workshops as well, which are really helpful in building rapport and really understanding that at the end of the day, the job search is still a human process, even though there's a million systems and artificial intelligence and applicant tracking systems, usually at the end of the day, someone sitting across from you is going to choose if you join the company or not, right? So we want to make sure that we're still focusing on that human element, and we'll talk about some of the ways to make this a more personal process. So as we get started, I want to dive a little bit deeper into some quick tips, right? So one of the tools that we'll discuss, and something that could be really helpful for you all, is really utilizing LinkedIn fully, right? So LinkedIn is a social media site really focused on professional development and job searching. It's, in my personal opinion, a very dry and boring tool, right? It's not one that I enjoy utilizing all the time, right? Because it kind of sounds sometimes robotic, but it's an amazing tool to connect you with individuals in your profession, to connect with new opportunities, to get your own business and brand out there, right? So the average person, well, everyone can have up to about 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. I think most people I talk to have about you know, 1,000, even around 500 connections, right? And one of the benefits of consistently adding people, even if you are like not job searching, is that it allows you to strengthen your network and position yourself as an authority in this specific industry that you work in, right? So, with that being said, I often tell people to network on LinkedIn. So, one of the things that you want to be mindful of is that not everyone is consistently utilizing LinkedIn 100% of the time, right? Most of us on this call probably only really like dusted our LinkedIn off after we started job searching. And then with that in mind, we decided, that we wanted to start reaching out and looking for things, right? So about 50% of users are on there in a month, which means the other 50% don't use it at all. So if you're messaging people, you want to be mindful, are they actually going to see your message, right? So a lot of the times, if no one responds to you, they're just not on LinkedIn, right? So make sure to check their recent comments. So has this person commented in the last week or two? Have they posted anything? Have they made any updates? Are they actually active, right? Because you don't want to waste your time trying to communicate with someone if that's not their mode of communication or a way you can get a hold of them. So you may want to switch over to reaching out through direct email or calls, or maybe through a referral process, right? And then lastly, we'll talk a lot about the concept of creating a modern job search, right? So we won't go too in depthly on all the tools you can use to do this, but some of the tools we want to be mindful of is just some of the basic artificial intelligence tools are like services like Upwork and Fiverr that can help you delegate and outsource some of your portions of your job search so that you're not spending, a month writing a resume or a cover letter or trying to find information about certain people or organizations, right? There are a lot of tools that help you and can save you a lot of time and energy, right? Because we want you to use your time and energy to be in front of people, to be able to talk about the value you bring to organizations, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like as we go along through this process. So really quickly, I wanted to talk about some of the success stories that we've been able to see over the last year, and there's been a number of great stories that we've heard throughout the process. But we're working with a gentleman, Jordan, who had been let go after a long amount of time, about 10 years. And so he had a hard time job searching, was on the market for about 6 months, was really on his backup plan of what to do next, and we were able to work together and really just saw how he was positioning his value and really targeting roles and revamped his resume, revamped his job search strategy. And the following month, he got into a series of interviews and was able to land a job with a 100K increase over his previous title, partially because he had been working the same organization so long that he was getting incremental raises. But also, he was just able to really position himself as someone that could fix their problem in their organization and be that go-to guy. Really easy, quick turnaround for him. And we were really excited to kind of see the success he was able to have. One of the things I really personally enjoy doing is kind of walking through salary negotiation. A lot of the time when I talk to people, they leave a lot of money on the table, right? And when they're offered a job, oftentimes they have this impression that they have to accept what someone offers to them, right? And for you, you don't need to just accept whatever offer. So I really walk through people through salary negotiation. I worked with Reese and Melissa. We're able to get about 17%, 30% increase over their initial offer, which is a large amount of money over 5 or 10 years, right? Working with an organization, right? So some of these stories, and we have a lot of success stories, but wanted you all to know if you're in the job search right now, there are a ton of opportunities out there. I know it can be very challenging, just in general, right? Especially if you're getting a lot of automatic rejections, or you feel like you're really good at what you do, but no one's seeing you. I just know that there is the right opportunity for you. I've never seen anyone unemployed permanently, right? But it's really about what can we do in our control to better position ourselves and solve problems in organizations. So with that in mind, I want to talk briefly about the stages of job search that I look at, right? So when we talk about the job search process, I look at one, what we call career clarity, two, preparation, three, research, four, outreach, and then five is kind of like a review of the process, right? So career clarity, we're going to discuss in preparation. We're going to dive deep into. All the rest of these, we're not going to go into that deeply because I'll save them for a different workshop. I don't want you all to just be overrun with information, right? So, one of the things I want to discuss is what is career clarity, and why do I start with it as the foundational thing of our job search, right? So, I work with a lot of people, and one of the things we identify quickly is how confident are you in the position you're choosing or the thing that you are moving towards, right? I know a lot of people that have invested 5, 7, even 10 years in a specific industry or field, and it was not one that really resonated with them. And they kind of went against the grain and kind of struggled in the work that they were doing. And were generally unhappy with the results of that, right? So a lot of the times when we're talking to people who are getting out of college or who are at that point where they're trying to switch careers or career changers, we really want to clarify several of these things here, right? So one, we want to really take a self-inventory, right? And look, okay, what are my strengths? Right? And we define strengths as things that we're just exceptionally good at or inclined at, right? Things that our friends are like, you're really good at this, or we've been cultivating over a number of years, right? We want to know what are our general weaknesses, or what are things that are the opposite of strengths, right? So what are we not inclined at? Is maybe we don't public speak well, or we don't really feel like we sell things well, or maybe we're just not good at math or science, right? So we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we are needing to do those things primarily as our work, right? Because that sets us at a disadvantage. So there are several personality tests. I really like Strength Finders. Myers-Briggs is a really popular one. There's a number of career coaching tests online as well. I say to people, just take the time to do about 3 to 5, right? One's going to give you some clarity, two's going to give you a little bit more. Three, you're going to start to get a little bit clearer picture of some of the things you bring to the table and things that you just may not be inclined to be doing, right? So with that foundation can be helpful for us to move forward. And then also we want to make sure at this stage we start to outline what are our career goals, right? So our goals are not always obviously 100%, right? We're going to get everything we set our mind out to get, right? But creating a clear career goal really allows us to set a outline, and it really allows us to have a hot and cold thing, right? So if we're like, oh, is this decision bringing me closer to my goal or further away? It should inform us to help us make easier decisions in our career and our educational planning and things of that nature, right? So our career goals are crucial for most of you all on this call. Your immediate career goal is to get a job, which makes sense, right? So we also want to think a little bit more long term. where are we heading after this role? When do we want to retire? What's our work-life balance look like? Do we want to spend more time with our family in the next number of years? Do we want to live on a beach or a different country? So we want to outline what does that look like and start to plant the seeds and take steps to start to manifest those things right into our life. At this phase of your career, you're going to do a lot of like loose, what we call window shopping, right? So you're going to be looking at careers and not necessarily applying all the time, but just kind of seeing what they look like, right? We all have a mental idea of what work would be like. Like as a kid, I watched Fast and Furious, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a mechanic. Like I get to make cars super fast and like race in the streets for some reason, right?" Completely not true about being a mechanic. It's a lot more gritty and a lot different process than I imagined as a kid. But I met mechanics, right? I went to the shops, I seen what that looked like. And it's a great job for some people, just not a great job for me. So for you all, when you're creating an idea, or if you're thinking about switching careers, don't just be like, well, now I'm going to switch to being an accountant, or I'm going to switch to being a project manager. Really understand like what's that lifestyle look like. Talk to individuals, research online, ask questions so that you can step into that with more confidence and know that it aligns with your career goals and your strengths and values, right? So that's a little bit about career clarity. There's a lot to cover there. There's a lot to kind of dive into. Do not be deterred if you do not know what you want to do immediately. Very common, right? It's something that you're committing your life to, right? It's similar to like dating. You're not gonna maybe choose your partner at the first sight, right? It takes time to understand how you fit well into this organization, this kind of work. So be graceful as you kind of go through this process, but set time to reflect. It's very important. It will save you a lot of time and energy later on in your process. So next, I wanted to briefly talk about what does it mean to prepare properly for your job search. So one, we talk about career clarity because you need to know what you're moving towards so that next you can customize your tools to target the right places, right? So some of the foundational things I say that people need to have for their job search is one, just an updated resume, right? So at the very baseline of your resume just has your contact information, maybe a professional summary of what you're looking for, a skills section, your professional experience section, and then an education section, right? That's our baseline resume. Resumes can do more than that. They can be a little bit more developed than that. But at the fundamental level, that's what we're looking for. And you want to be very mindful to not spend all your time just on your resume, right? Resumes at one point in time were the only thing that people use to understand what you did. Next to you, obviously, walking in the shops and talking to people. But now we have things like LinkedIn. People are making personal websites and portfolios. So you want to diversify how you are showing your brand and showing what you do for work, right? Especially certain industries. So speaking of, we'll talk, about creating your LinkedIn. It's your own personal landing page. You're able to go much more in depth on projects, skills, and to post about your work, your industry, and things that you're passionate about as well. Not every career field needs a LinkedIn, right? When I worked in manufacturing and logistics, those individuals who worked in factories and trucking and things of that nature didn't have LinkedIn's. They had much more of a word of mouth system, at least here in San Diego. So some industries don't rely on that heavily. But if your industry is one on computers, one that requires you to connect to, transfer of information, you want to make sure that you have a LinkedIn that's great. It looks good. It represents who you are. One of the most looked at parts of a LinkedIn when they show like a heat map of the website is your profile picture, right? So for whatever reason, people like to look at people's profile pictures first. I'm also guilty of that. So for you all, make sure that you take the time to just get a good photo. You don't need to take like a presidential photo of you or anything like that. You can find a local photographer, someone that's developing their skill set in photography, and have them just take a number of professional photos of you that can range from here in the US from like 30 to 50 bucks or, something like that. Nothing too crazy, but just make sure you're taking the time to do that. Next, we talk about professional references. So most hiring managers I worked with all request references. Some of them contacted those people, some of them didn't. For you, you want to make sure it's a process you do at the beginning of your job search and not afterwards, right? Or like not during, because it can cause you stress. So make sure you find people that either have been your supervisor or your manager, or if you've never had a job, looking at like a professor, a coach, or a volunteer organization, have them give their email, their phone number, and just your relationship with them, right? Have that prepared so when you need to give that information over, it doesn't stall your job search and you already feel secure in that, right? So next, we talk a little bit about calculating runway. So it's a term I use often with individuals. So what I mean by calculating runway is that you understand how long you can have a functional job search without needing to change your methodology, right? So everyone I talk to, they usually follow a very similar trajectory. They have a very ideal position and an ideal pay in mind. And they're like, I'm applying for these roles. It's going to be great. I'm going to make more money. And then sadly, a month or two or three go by. And then they're like, well, I'm not getting any interviews, so let me open up to a lesser title or maybe decrease the amount of money I'm looking for, right? And then maybe another few months will pass and they're like, well, I'll just take anything or I'll need to get a different kind of job, right? So for you, just make sure that we make a contingency plan if your job search does not go the exact way that you desire it to go, right? And people underestimate the time it takes a job search, right? It doesn't always take a month or even two. Sometimes it can take 6 months to a year, depending on your industry and what's going on, right? There's a lot of changes globally, technologically. It can take some time. So be prepared to maybe take a transitional job or to maybe part-time job or whatever financial things you need to do to elongate your job search or make it longer and feel comfortable in that process. Lastly, we just talked about a cover letter. Cover letters are really customized um, reasons why you want a specific job or to work with a company. I tell people to write a cover letter and a resume, but make a master version of those things. And you're going to want to customize them for every job that you apply to, at least a little bit. You're not writing a novel, right? So you don't need to spend all your time doing that process. But make sure that you have a baseline model of those things because you don't want to rewrite those from scratch. It'll take you hours, days, weeks, especially if you're applying to a lot of positions. So that's what I wanted to cover, at least in our preparation or career clarity phase. With those two things in mind, you'll at least be able to go on to the job search strategy with more confidence, understanding what you're looking for, and having the proper tools to engage in a proper search, right? So that's a little bit about that there. So I do offer for those who are interested like a 30-minute audit for some individuals on where they are in their job search. So I have a number of slots, about 4 or 5 a week that I offer for those who want to kind of go over the basics of their job search, their career goals, and the next steps or maybe like quick things I can see that they're maybe doing wrong. So I have this QR code here. If you all are interested in getting any personalized support, hopefully this workshop can cover a lot of your basic questions here as well. So moving on to market research, right? So one of the things that we talk about, what is market research? And I kind of defined it as gathering of important information about your specific um, industry, your specific career field, your skills, and things that are happening and trending in your area of work, right? So with this, right, we're going to ask questions like, how much does someone get paid for this, right? What kind of skills do I need to know? what companies are excelling in my industry, what companies are maybe going out of business or not doing well, right? How is artificial intelligence affecting my work? How are these government changes, no matter what government you're under, affecting this specific industry or job market, right? So you want to know these things because it allows you to pivot yourself and to navigate and position your skills and other things in a stronger light and target the right companies and target the right people to network with, right? So really talking about just understanding industry trends, the growth potential of certain companies and certain positions, and all the major players that are in your specific industry. Like we said earlier, you can have about 30,000 people on LinkedIn. Really, a fraction of that will probably cover all the most important people in your industry, at least where you are, or next to where you are, right? So a couple of tools that I like to use that can be really helpful this process. So as a recruiter, we use LinkedIn a lot for recruitment. There's a LinkedIn recruiter feature. They also have a LinkedIn sales navigator feature as well, which is really helpful because it shows you things like talent trends, right? So it says like, what are this specific company's hiring patterns, right? How long how do they keep their employees, right? And what's their percentage of turnover? And they have some really, really cool data about where they hired people from, right? So it'll be like, oh, they hired 20% of their people from these colleges, or they recruited a lot of their people from this other organization, right? So for you, that's really powerful information. I don't work for LinkedIn, but they do offer this every time I'm on LinkedIn to basically get 2 months for like $100, right? And so that sounds like it can be a bit of money, but when I talk about having a competitive edge on understanding what companies to look for and how to position yourself, that's a drop in the bucket about the benefit that the service can bring you, right? So we also have things like PayScale, Glassdoor. These are free services as well. PayScale, I was talking about in my newsletter yesterday or this morning, has just salary insight. So I talked to a lot of people through salary negotiation, asked them how much they want, and they're like, "Well, I want like $1 million to be, an entry level person here, or 100,000, or whatever, right?" But they're really they people often mention the cost of living. They're like, well, it costs this much to live here, so I need that at least, right? Sadly, that's not how the market works. The market isn't like, well, you need this to survive, so we'll pay this to you, right? They pay you based on what they value they'll think you'll bring and how much money you'll bring the organization, right? So for us, we want to make sure that we are creating what I call it creating a spectrum, right? So what's the absolute lowest that you'll get paid for your position, right? And then what's the highest? What's the top like 10 percentile? So you'll probably fit somewhere in the middle of that, right? Ideally on the higher side, but it gives you a really clear range. So if your goal is to make 100K and it's nowhere in that range, you may want to say, okay, do I need to look at more senior roles if I have the ability? Do I want to look at different industries or different say like I want to work in finance or biotech as an HR person versus working at a nonprofit person or at a nonprofit because they pay more in biotech in some finance companies, right? So maybe you want to change the position you're looking for if salaries are really a big component of why you're looking for certain things. Glassdoor, at least here in the US, is a great tool to see what people are saying about companies, right? So all the time, someone's like, "Oh, I got a job offer." And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at what people are saying, right? How many reviews does it have, right? What are they saying about leadership? What are they saying about culture, benefits? And though a lot of people leave negative reviews because they personally had a bad experience, um, we want to be objective, so we want to make sure that we don't take what everyone says as 100% the truth, but we want to notice if we see any trends or anything that we want to be vigilant of, right? Because you don't want to put yourself or sign up for a company that just isn't going to match your personal values and you don't feel, is going to be a great culture to work in. So Glassdoor, PayScale, LinkedIn. There are a lot of other tools that will let you know about, for example, like in biotech, they'll let you know when certain drugs are being FDA approved, which is like approved to get onto the next stages to the public. So you know that a company may start to hire more people based on that, right? So there are a lot of things for your specific industry you can look at as far as legislation or laws being passed about certain how products are being released, what technology is going to be affected. So the more you know, the more powerful you are in the job search process, right? So really quickly, I want to talk briefly about just the size of organizations. So when we talk about the size of organizations, a micro enterprise or small business that has about 1 to 100 employees, right? The process of job searching usually is a bit faster and less convoluted, or it's less stacked on itself, right? So with a smaller company, the first couple of people you talk to are probably going to be either the owner or the CEO or someone that we would consider a strong decision maker, right? Whereas some of the larger companies that when I was a recruiter and even ones I've applied to, I first talked to a recruiter and then I talked to HR, then I talked to like my direct manager, then the director of the department, then did a panel interview, right? So the larger companies typically have stronger models or longer models that they work through. And the only reason I mention that is that we changed the way that we network and the way that we target these companies based on their size. So the last two jobs that I got interviews for, I did not apply at all, actually. I called them and I sent direct emails versus going through the application process. These companies were sub 100, right? So they had less than 100 employees. So it was very easy to talk to the person that runs the organization or that is a key decision maker. So I was able to get in the interview process fairly quickly, right? Versus like trying to apply to Amazon. I'm not just going to call Jeff Bezos and ask for a job, right? So it's a little bit different about how we channel the networks, right? So I may need to target people on LinkedIn and slowly build relationships adjacent to key decision makers and get more information about roles, right? So there are different ways that we target those things. And secondly, we want to know that. So I was working with someone who's had a job in Tesla, and their interview process took 3 months, right? So if you're in immediate need of money or those kind of things, you need to be mindful that these processes can take a bit of time. So you don't be deterred and also have a backup plan if you need to create more of a runway so that you can finish the processes out, right? So it's just a little bit about size of organizations. They do affect minor things of your job search and how you'll approach things. So keep track of that and remember that as you're thinking about these things. All right, so we will go into our lamp list. So earlier I said the lamp list is a job search strategy, come from the 2 hour job search. Where's my 2 hour job search? Oh, here's, here it is. So the 2 hour job search is, oh, can't even see it, is a book by Steve Dalton. It's really the premise of the book is how do you optimize your job search so that it is technologically up to date and that you can follow a very quick and fast process, right? So is it the best job searching strategy? I don't necessarily think so. Is it quick and easy to implement and easy to keep track of? Absolutely, right? Which is why I bring it to you all today because it's something you can get off the call and review your positions and immediately see what impact you can have there. So our LAMP list really is an acronym for list, advocacy, motivation, and posting, right? So L is for list, obviously. So you're going to be looking at a list of about 30 to 50 organizations. Advocacy is really finding someone that can help you in the job search process. M is um, motivation, or how inclined you are to work at a specific place, right? Like how excited are you, right? And then posting is just for finding relevant positions that are healthy, hiring, and are aligned with your values, but also just keeping track of the actual job posting. So like putting a hyperlink up right into your page. So first I want to talk about an employer list, right? So I get this question like 50, 60 times. People are like, why would I make an employee like a list of places when I'm applying to like 100 places a month? And I can't easily keep track of that, right? And it just kind of slows me down if I'm trying to just follow a specific set of companies. And that's a great question, right? I don't ever want to deter you from applying to different places, right? But what I will tell you is that in recruitment, we call it the spray and pray method, right? So you're sending out your resumes to lots of organizations, and then you wait and you're trying to hear back. And oftentimes you'll either immediately get rejected or you won't hear anything back and you're just kind of waiting and you're hoping that something is happening, right? And I ask these people, like, how many of these jobs are still alive? Like, how many of the companies you have applied for over the last 2 months are still actively looking to hire someone? And very rarely can someone give me a real number, right? Because they actually have no control or no real oversight of their process because they've been applying to so many places, right? So one of the benefits of having an employer list is that what it does is it allows us to create a roadmap of networking and following up effectively so that for every job we know if they're still hiring, we know where they are in their process, and we've followed up at least several times, and that not only allows us to seem persistent and be proactive about our role, oftentimes it just increases our effectiveness overall, right? Versus sending out an application and then waiting for a response. So there is a lot of benefits to being a little bit more organized over your list. Like I said, I don't want to deter you from just applying. If you find a role, also feel free to apply quickly to that as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the hidden job market. So this is a term that you'll hear often, right? So what does it mean to the hidden job market? So some say that jobs over 70% of jobs are never publicly posted, right? So what does that mean? Basically, it's just saying that like a lot of roles are either filled internally, right? So a company will say, "Hey, who do we have that can fill the role?" Two, someone would be like, "Hey, I know someone that can do that job, or is a great accountant or a great salesperson, program manager, project manager, right?" And so they'll refer a person in, and then there's a small percentage that there are being headhunted, right? They're like maybe a higher level position, and a company is seeking actively to hire specific people. So, is all jobs or 70% of jobs hidden or not posted? I don't necessarily think the number is that high, right? But I can tell you the number is much higher than zero, right? Positions that are not publicly posted, or by the time they are publicly posted, they've already made their rounds through several circles and several groups of people, right? So that's the reason why we really talk about building connection, networking effectively, and kind of moving on to advocacy, right? So in the 2 hour job search, we talk about what does advocacy mean, right? Advocacy really is just that you have someone to advocate for you in the job search. So when I'm looking at my list of companies, is there anyone that I know or may know of that can either give me advice on entry, or they can get my resume in front of the right person, right? Or they can tell me about how to better position myself for this role, right? So advocates are invaluable because with them on your side, or having someone that vouches for you builds your credibility and trust with a new organization a lot, right? Versus you being a complete stranger, right? So types of advocates we'll talk about are people that you either have a first or second degree connection with on LinkedIn, those who are on your social media like Instagram or Facebook, right? So these two groups alone, right? Everyone has their own private network. So if you know someone and you're like looking to get a job at Microsoft, you're like, hey, do I know anyone that works at Microsoft or know someone that works at Microsoft, right? Especially in this department, and really starting to set up those connections there. So as we go down the list of types of advocates, you can start to reach out to people that are strangers, right? Through like LinkedIn or cold calls or even direct emails and working to kind of get more information about companies and how you can fit in, right? And some people are receptive and some people aren't, which is why you want to proactively follow up and reach out to more people. So, seven effective ways to network beyond LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn's not always communicative. Some people aren't on LinkedIn, or some people see your message and they just don't respond, right? They feel like you're like a spam or that you want something from them, right? So, for us, we want to utilize things like our alumni network, right? So, if you've gone to college, you've gone to school, all of those people have gone on to do ideally incredible work, right? In different fields, and they know people in the professional world. So you leaning back on your alumni network can be very helpful, right? For you to kind of build rapport quickly with someone that's been through a similar experience with you. In-person events, I have a client right now that goes to about four 3 or 4 events a week. I think that's a lot, but has met incredible individuals, right? People that have advocated for her, have put her in front of other people that can offer her roles and positions. So going to in-person events on like meetup.com, um, Facebook has some events that they post, and a lot of other websites, depending on what country you live in, you'll see that there are at least kind of like happy hours or like conversational things or presentations, right? So maybe there isn't someone that's in your specific area, but also know that other people have expansive networks. And it's really great for you to practice your pitch, talk about what value you bring, and just kind of build momentum, right? So those are really beneficial for you. Next, referrals from friends, family, and coworkers or previous coworkers. Your family really wants you to be successful. I hope so. Your close friends as well, right? Your previous coworkers, the ones that you had a good relationship with, those are all great people to at least notify that you're in the job search process. I know it can be a little nerve-wracking to put yourself out there or maybe even feel some emotions about that, which is understandable, but know that most people care about you, want you to be successful. And not having a job is not always a fault of your own. It's just the market and things that are happening, right? So always speak to that, talk about what you're looking for, and being able to describe what assets you bring to a company, just so that people can help you in that process, right? So industry communities are good on LinkedIn, Facebook. There are other websites, even like Reddit sometimes has like loose communities that focus on engineering or software. Um, Design, UX, program management, project management, all types of roles, right? So you can find those communities, ask questions about the industry, the company, build knowledge, connect with people, can be helpful. Sending direct emails can be helpful as well. And obviously applying follow up and then cold LinkedIn outreach, which is technically a part of LinkedIn, but it's probably it's worth doing, but it's not the most effective thing all the time. So this message here is a quick message about something you could send to someone on LinkedIn or through email, right? It's, I hope this message finds you well. I'm currently exploring opportunities in blank industry and came across your profile. I admire your work at blank company. Would love to learn more about your experience and insights. Would you be open to a brief chat? I appreciate any advice you can share. I'm happy to work around your schedule. Thank you. Thank you for considering my request. Now, even this, when I wrote it, right? It seemed decent, right? But oftentimes may not be enough as well, right? And you should ask yourself, would I respond to this message? So the more specific we can be in a message, the better, right? So if you're saying, hey, I see that you did work at this company and you worked on these projects, or I saw that you finished this thing, the more personalized it is, the more likely someone is to respond to your message, right? Also, if me and you have a connection, right? I see Jasmine's name in front of me right now. So say me and Jasmine have a mutual connection on LinkedIn or have a friend or go to the same church, right? mentioning that earlier on in your conversation also allows people to understand that you're not just a complete stranger, but someone that's really grounded in a real person, right? So being like, hey, I saw that we were connected through so and so, and you did this work. I really wanted to take some time to speak to you and learn a little bit more about your process and get your opinion on something, right? So that there just allows and increases the chances of communication. So with that being said, right, we want to make sure that we use 100 words or less. No one wants to read a novel from you when they don't know you, right? We want to make sure that you don't have any grammatical errors. There's no reason with Grammarly, ChatGPT, Gemini AI, and Cloud AI, all these tools for you to be making those kind of mistakes in your writing. Just take the time, read, review. Also, don't use AI too much, right? A lot of people you can tell to some extent, right? Some messages are harder to tell, but some people you'll notice are writing too perfect, and that kind of depersonalizes that or makes it less like connected, right? When we're seeing that people are doing those kind of things. So make sure never to ask for a job when you're initially messaging someone. It makes it seem very transactional, and it's a very fast way to get people not to respond to you. If I don't know you and I'm like, "Hey, can you help me get a job in your department?" They're like, "Why would I do that? Why I can't vouch for you. I don't know anything about you, right?" So we want to make sure you want to focus on connection and show general interest in that person. So next we talk briefly just about informational interviews. So you all know what an interview is. An informational interview is you proactively reaching out to people, having a 15 to 30 minute or longer conversation about their industry, what they would advise you on entering into their company or their specific role, what challenges and rewards are there in their position, right? Especially if you're looking at changing careers, getting that inside information about like, oh, what are the challenges, right? You're like, oh, well, these seasons we work 60 hours a week, or this time period, it's very hard to make sales, right? And rewards, and then obviously seeing a little bit more about networking tips. Where do other software engineers stay, right? Like, or where do they congregate? Where are they meeting in the city, or what tools are they using to network? Is really great to get. And then educational resources are great too, right? So what should I learn? We all should have an educational plan. It's one of the things I see people neglect all the time, but is one of the things that you should take into consideration. The job market is changing so quickly, and one of the things that is changing is just the adaptation to new technology, to new methodologies, new concepts. So for you, you want to have a competitive edge by staying above the curve. So you need to know, what does my educational plan look like, and what do I need to learn to actually be effective at my role and to be better, to be in the top 20% of people that do what I do for a living. How do I get there? By learning the right things and implementing the right practices. Someone that's in the role can tell you what's emerging, what people value in their company, and things of that nature. So those are things you want to be very mindful of when speaking to people, is just kind of gathering this information. So part of your market research, and also allows you to build connection with someone. So lastly, our lamp list, we have motivation and posting. Motivation is really just being mindful of what's role, like how excited you are about a role. You may think that it's a 5 out of 5, right? Like you're really excited about it, and then you talk to someone in the organization and see that, the recent merger has changed the culture, and that people are generally unhappy and are trying to jump ship. Or you may find that, you were hesitant about a job from the posting and then found out that they had great leadership and growth opportunity, and you were able to bring your dog to work, and that's something that's really important to you. So just make sure that your lamp list or your job search strategy is an updated strategy. I will tell you that it's 100% useless to make a lamp list and not use it on a daily if you're job searching daily. So make sure you update your motivation and what roles that you're interested in, because that allows you to be a little bit more effective in choosing new roles and understanding some trends that you desire versus ones that you don't. Lastly, is posting. Just take the hyperlink of the job, or a link to the job, put it on your lamp list so it's easy to find, right? So you can go back and see if the job's still up, right? Did they hire someone for it already? So just be mindful of those kind of things. Also, I want to talk briefly just about follow up, right? One of the biggest things I talk to people like, oh, did you follow up after you applied to the role and like how many times? And that number usually is zero, right? They've applied to 100 companies and have never said anything to those companies again, or they were instantly rejected, right? So make sure that you are following up with companies that you apply to, also following up with people who are you are trying to network with at least two or three times, right? Don't waste your time if they're not responding. Maybe they're busy at first, or maybe they don't have the capacity to respond. But don't get hung up on that. Make sure you're proactively moving forward. So follow up with your applications, follow up with the people you're trying to network with. Use ChatGPT as a draft. Like I said, don't lean too heavily on copy and pasting those things that makes you look like you don't care as much, right? Or that you're not really writing or putting the time in. So use it as an outline and to edit grammar things as well. But I'll tell you, even like basic follow-up can increase your response rates and hearing back from people by even like 20 to 30% rate, which is very helpful for you because you only need one job. So it's a little bit about follow up. Like I said, the reason why we create a list of employers is that we can keep track of who we're targeting to check with and how we're following up, right? When you have 200 open positions that you're looking at, one, you're not going to hear back from a lot of them, but two, you can't keep track of them yourself. It can be very overwhelming for you as a job searcher. So be mindful of that. So general tips, like I said, you want to update your list consistently on pay, logistics, lifestyle. Uh, like I said, use your lamp list, use whatever job search strategy you create, but use a strategy. Make sure that you're following a plan. Secondly, allocate time for your job search, right? So allocate no matter what, I'm going to spend 30 minutes today, an hour, 2 hours, depending on if you have the free time or if you're unemployed currently, to job search these days a week at this time. Build that consistency so that when you are getting a lot of rejection, when things aren't going your way, that doesn't affect how you go about your job search. One of the biggest problems I see people do is that they quit job searching or they put it off or they procrastinate because they're getting rejected and they're just demoralized or they don't feel good, right? And so all the work that you do now will show up 4 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now, right? As people read your messages and get through applications. So you don't want to take a lot of days off and stay consistent. So allocate 10 to 25 hours, maybe even up to 30 or 40 to job search if you have a strong sense of urgency. But at the same time, do not job search 100% of your time, right? It's a very quick way to be burnt out, to be emotionally overwhelmed. Take the time, especially if you're unemployed, to go on walks or do whatever activities like spend time with family. All the positive stuff you do will go back into your job search, and you'll have energy to do that when you take time to rest and you're not on LinkedIn 8 hours a day. I see people do that all the time. They're checking every site all the time, and it's a really fast way to burn your energy and just your mental focus, right? Lastly, remember to tailor your resume, tailor your cover letters. Every job has like 100 applicants, 200 applicants. Only about five of them make it in an interview. So you want to make sure that your resume fits what they're looking for better than other resumes as well, right? Lastly, here's a tip that I wrote about in last week's newsletter. But if you are job searching, it's also helpful for some people who are getting clarity to have a job searching journal, like a career journal, right? So after you job search, even if you only take, 10 minutes, write down how your job search went, what emotions came up, what trends you noticed that you're doing, things like that. Because it's really a powerful self-reflection tool, really allows you to understand any reasons you may be procrastinating, why you think you may not get a position, and those things are things you can work on so that you can effectively job search better and with more clarity and understand what's your motivators and drivers, right? So we have a few minutes left. I have time to field a number of questions here, which you can type in the chat, which I'd be more than happy to answer some of those there. So feel free if you have any questions. I will set probably the next, 5 to 6 minutes to kind of answer what questions I can. I'll do the best I can, right? So yeah. And for those, you can feel free to type your question in. You see your question there. So again, I just posted my website in the chat as well if you want to look at some of the things there. If you did sign up on Eventbrite and signed up to get the newsletter, you will be getting tips. I take a lot of time to write the tips through and make them as valuable as possible because I hate reading stuff that I don't find it useful or can't implement or is not practical, right? So I try to write very practical newsletters on tips and things you can do and shift up in your job search. All right, we see any questions? Oh, yes, absolutely. We'll add you to the newsletter. So Francisco, any recommendation on finding personal phones for email for people on LinkedIn or personal? Yeah, I'm very interested in startups and getting in the door would be great. Um, so there are tools that kind of help you. So recruiters use a lot of, which a lot of people don't like. Recruiters use a lot of things like Zoom Info or Hunter IO as ways to get personal emails and phone numbers, right? So there are a lot of tools for that that can be helpful. One of the things that you want to be mindful of is just like not everyone's excited that you are calling them, like if they didn't give you their number, right? So I would try to use as many public channels as possible. Obviously, like if I'm calling someone and they didn't give me their number, there's a large barrier. If I email them, there's less of a strong barrier because people get all types of emails from different types of people, right? So just be mindful of that. And so on LinkedIn, there are some ways to sometimes I'll post, especially if you use like LinkedIn Recruiter, you'll see people's resume and things like that on there as well. So there are ways to get that kind of information. They call them email scrapers, info scrapers as well. Some of them cost money. There's not a lot of free ones. So you can do free trials, but just be mindful about how you position yourself in that way. So Vitali, really beautiful name. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Has a question. Does it make sense to apply to a role with a resume without networking, or is there almost no chance of hearing back, especially from big companies? So it all depends, right? If you all know who LeBron James is, a very famous basketball player here in the United States in the NBA. So LeBron James could apply to any role, any company, or any organization in the NBA and get hired, right? Because he is a very specific caliber and has a very strong resume, right? So depending on your strength of your resume and how well it can tell a story for you, right? Like Barack Obama could apply to a lot of jobs, and because of his brand and his resume strength, he can get into a lot of places, right? For a lot of us, we don't have that necessarily the brand strength or the organizations we've worked for or educational background does not just speak for itself as strongly as that, right? So I would say that it's not a 0% chance. I'll say that there a lot of the times it's less of a chance, right? Especially when companies are fielding through hundreds of people. I would say that networking just really bumps up our opportunity to be seen and getting referrals and gives us so much more power in that process. And it's a very good habit to do. So I will say that applying is still good, especially depending on your specific resume, but isn't enough for a lot of people. So. So I have time for one more question. Yeah, I hope that help was helpful to some extent. Um, Seems like we're a little slow on the questions, which is perfectly fine. I hope that you got most of your uh, questions answered in the workshop as well. I know we're about 2 minutes over. I like to respect everyone's time, and I do appreciate you for joining us here today. So again, like I said, you can join our newsletter. I am starting a cohort, like a monthly job search cohort for those who want more support in your job search. I'll be hosting like weekly Q&As and kind of working with people one-on-one on those calls, kind of see where they are and just work as a group to make sure people are getting into their jobs. Isn't as something that we do as well. So with that being said, I want to wish you all the best of luck on your job search. Just know that no one stays unemployed permanently. So there is going to be a job for you. Make sure that you're being proactive and not reactive. Your job search is always in your hands. There's something you can do to push the needle forward. So do what you can, and learn when things aren't going well. Do not just do the same method, right? Tweak your strategy if it's not effective. So thank you so much for joining us. I will look forward to seeing you all in the near future, and have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much. Michelle, I can answer your question as well as people are logging off. How much information should you put on your resume? You want to put maybe a max of 2 pages, depending on what country that you're in, right? In the US is 1 to 2 pages. Just those basic things we talked about is your contact information. A professional summary helps to say what you are personally looking for in your resume. Your skills, make sure that you're grabbing skills from jobs, like specific jobs that you're looking at, so that when they use the applicant tracking system, it matches very well. Your education and any like certifications, right? It'll be good. It's really baseline stuff that you can put on your resume, which should cover a lot of what people are looking for there. So, but anyway, with that being said, hope that answered your question, Michelle. Feel free to reach out through email or LinkedIn. For everyone else, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you take care.